There's no I in team. Thankfully for us, there is in All-Australian. Thursday night, the season's greatest individual performers are crowned. The players vote for their MVP. The coaches name the best of the year. The rising star is revealed. And the 22 players who make up the 2024 Team of the Year are honoured. It's a night where superstars take centre stage. Live and exclusive to Fox Footy, the 2024 AFL Awards.
Live and exclusive tomorrow night on Fox Footy from 7:30. Righto, we are usually together to review these things. It's a bit cards on the table, though, at the start of things. Leigh Montagna, welcome.
Hello, Jared. Robbo.
David King, hello.
Hello, guys.
Righto, you go first. Give us your All-Australian team.
Well, you're not going to like it. I don't really like it myself that much, so let's have a look at it. Look, I've just had a look at... I think when you look at my team, most of my team, I've rewarded guys that have played in teams that have really battled, that have been elite performers. Guys like Zach Merritt, I think that he's had an unbelievable year with his leadership, with his defensive side of the game, as well as the things that are really easy quantifiable, like, you know, disposals and the 4.3 clearances versus 4.6. I'm not interested in that sort of stuff, more carrying the load for a team. So he probably got in my team ahead of guys like Butters or Sarong, who I think have had more I think Hayden Young's had more influence than Sarong. So I put Hayden Young in there, particularly in the back half of the season. I've got the wingmen in there, both wingmen covered by guys that played large chunks of the season on the wing. Goulden played over 50% and D'Ambrosio nearly 90%. So I think if you're selecting a team for the current day, that's a requirement. Just the one ruckman. I wrestled with putting Tristan Sherry in, must be fair, but I ended up going with Gawn. Dacos got wobbly, Treloar got wobbly, but I left him in there because I thought the bulk of the year they were very good. And Sheasel, I think, has had an All-Australian year. I don't know if he gets in or not, but again, same principle. There was games where he had 14 score involvements for a team that's hardly functioning. So I've elevated guys that have been in more challenging situations.
Joey, show us yours.
Well, I've got my team. The first thing I want to touch on, though, is the way that I've structured my team. I think that we should be looking for a bit of a shift in regards to how we name the team. Like, we haven't had a centre-half forward play for 10 years. We haven't had back pockets. We have high forwards or high defenders, and we have deep forwards and deep defenders. So I think we should be looking at, when you name the team, you can see the back line there, that the deep defenders should be the last line, and then your high half forwards, who are the players that do it at every centre bounce, every stoppage, play high. That's just something that I want to put out there, because I still see centre-half forward, full forward, back pocket. We don't have those positions anymore in AFL footy. But my team there, I've gone slightly different.
Just get to the team. No, I agree.
Slightly different to Kingy, where I've rewarded players that have been, I think, have led to their teams being successful. So, for example, James Sicily. I think that after the first 3 rounds of the year where he had 11 goals kicked on him, remember his horror start, he ended up only having 17 goals kicked on him in the last 17 games, and we know what he did from an offensive point of view. So I went with him over someone like a McGovern, because I think he's helped. Well, they've had the best defence since about round 6, the Hawks. Same with Max Holmes. I ended up... That's the sort of Sinclair-Houston role. I thought Max Holmes is probably going to win Geelong's best and fairest, and they've finished 4th on the ladder. So I think he deserves some recognition for his sensational season. I went with Dylan Moore over Brent Daniels. I think when you look at the numbers, Daniels came home like a steam train the last 5 weeks, but he'd only had sort of 14 goals in 17 games up until the end of the year. Dylan Moore has certainly been more consistent. And then even at the bench, I went for Treloar over Sheasel. I agree with Kingy. Sheasel has had an All-Australian year, but I thought Treloar's never made it. He's been consistent from start to finish. His Western Bulldogs are a big chance to try and play in a grand final, so I erred on someone like him over a young Sheasel.
All right, let's play with the key backs, and you're involved here as well, Robbo, because so this is Wiedering or McGovern. You went McGovern.
McGovern.
You are?
McGovern.
And you're Wiedering.
Yeah.
All right, so show us how this stacks up.
Well, I just went with someone who probably is the best defender of the group. So he doesn't have the sexy, necessarily offensive numbers, but he's the best one-on-one player in the competition at losing one-on-ones. He was sensational in that facet of the game, winning his one-on-ones, and he only had 34 goals kicked on him in 21 games, playing as that number 1 defender. So I just erred on the side of, again, a team that's playing finals, and a guy that probably didn't have the score involvement in the offence, but what he did defensively I thought deserves. And he's been around the mark a number of years, so I think he's...
So what makes him strong, for me, makes him weak. Like, great, if you were listing individual positions, put him in there. But if you're building a team, McGovern's the team man. He covers for all of them in a team that's really battled. So I've gone the other way. So the psychology of our teams are totally different. I think McGovern's been enormous in a team that's been under siege down back. Don't know what
he's like that sort of high... I was joking before when I said move on. Yeah. That high role. McGovern, does he sort of play a high-key back role?
He just he does whatever he likes. He just patrols the back line wherever he's needed.
Like the whole area.
He does
He's
it-
not
does
just
it all.
that one
Does it a lot.
position, man.
Yeah. Do we all have Harris Andrews in? Did you have
Yes.
Harris Andrews? You?
Yes.
Harris Andrews, should be in the team.
All right, on the wings, so Goulden's a lock on one. So you're D'Ambrosio, and you're
Merritt. Only because I think that I agree that my view is that we don't need two wingmen unless there are two standouts. And the reason for that is I think this year there's only a handful of good wingmen in the competition, really, when you think about it. But there's up to 30 elite midfielders that all deserve to be around the mark. So I just think with the way that you've got to reward inside mids that have all had sensational seasons, I think one of those outside mid-type players, like a Zach Merritt, someone like that, deserves to make the team.
But he doesn't
out on
play.
the wing.
But it's an obvious comment, this.
Yeah.
But he doesn't play there.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't play there.
But
So
I think
how
I
can
want to
you-
reward players that deserve to be all Australians.
All
over
need to get in. I mean, we'd have a midfielders just
back pocket?
19 of the 22.
No,
spots.
no, you've got to be reasonable. So I'm not putting
hasn't played.
midfielders at half back or putting midfielders. You've got to be reasonable. You've got the best wingman in the comp, Errol Goulden. We all agree with that.
He's
I
played
just think
right
there's too
behind
many
him.
mids. Yeah, he's a fair way
Is it a
behind. There's
spe-
daylight between Goulden and the next
It's a
best wingman.
specialty role, though, isn't it?
It is.
The wing.
Yeah.
Well, make the
And if
case for D'Ambrosio.
Oh, he's being a great story. But that goalpost to goalpost running, coaches talk about it all the time, how they step around the back and they be that sixth defender. Sidebottom did it for 12 years. Go around the back, you always see him that. And D'Ambrosio does that, and he's got a beautiful left foot. His ability to bring the ball into their forward line in that space that you were talking about last week when you were talking about the empty nesters, his ability to find people in space, that's what separates him.
That's all true. But when you look at the coaches' votes, no wingman besides Errol Goulden's in the top 30.
But they're more reflected in the best and fairest, I think, than the coaches' votes, because the Stars are an opportunity. They're opportunities to win 40 disposals a week. The wingmen are not there. So their numbers, they can't compete on numbers.
He could win
they
the
just
BNF.
can't.
He could win the BNF.
They can't compete if you put a wingman next to any midfielder.
Yeah.
They can't compete. So it astounds me. I'll guarantee they'll put a wingman in that has played 1% wing for the year. Well, what is that? Well,
No,
let's
that's
just
not
list
right.
the top 25 perform players and not put them in
Yeah,
position.
it's not right
if
that
we're
you
going to
do
do that.
Tall or small forward line? So you've gone small ball. The two of you have gone all of Hogan, Curnow and Jeremy Cameron.
Jeremy Cameron.
Yeah, I thought that's the balance I went with. Jeremy Cameron's sort of the hybrid as the third. Hogan's obviously a lock. Curnow I had, just ahead of, say, Jake Waterman. He kicked third most goals, third for scoreboard impact when you consider goals and assists. Contested marks. Didn't have as brilliant a year as he's had in previous years, Charlie Curnow, but I still think, for me, just enough to get in as that second or third tall forward.
Has three tall forwards worked this year? Are we reflecting the year? So which team has capitalised with three tall forwards? So if we're saying it's becoming more small ball, well, let's reflect that in our team for the year and reward those guys. I think Cameron over Curnow, just. That's personal preference, influence on game. Everyone's got Hogan. And then you pick your poison. I'll put Young and Warner at half forward because they've played there. They've played that role. So we're not rewarding midfielders spilling forward. And that's why I've had to leave some of those mids out. So I think that reflects... You can argue the player, but that reflects 2024, the season.
Yep, so more, and then so the swing vote here is Stengel.
Yeah, well, I just think you have to have a notional forward pocket. It would seem silly to me to pick an All-Australian team and not have a specialist forward pocket in there that chases and tackles and does all the dirty work and then has the ability to get up the ground and help at stoppage and get back. This guy does all that. Dylan Moore does all that. So I'm rewarding those two because I think they're prime roles now. I mean, they cause you enormous headaches, these guys, in your planning, don't they?
Yeah, no, of course they do. And yeah, of course they do. I'm not picking on you, Joey. It's going to sound like I am. But you've got Marcus Bontempelli named on the half-forward flank. He's the number one rated player in the game, playing as that clearance midfield beast.
Yeah.
How do you justify putting him on a flank?
Well, the other three inside mids, I've got Cripps, Sarong and Nick Dacos, all played inside mid. Bontempelli kicked 32 goals. He can play that mid-half forward role. He's got as many possessions inside the forward 50 as Ben King and Jake Waterman for the year. He played a lot forward. So just for the balance of my team, to try and get the players that deserve to be All-Australian in the team, someone had to be half forward. And when you've kicked 32 goals, I mean, it's almost the same as Dylan Moore. I think it's easy enough to put him at half forward.
We are going away from comparing mids with mids, though. That's my scare. You need to have a cap on how many mids you can get in the team.
Let the debate begin. Let's see how it lands tomorrow night.